Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the King of Armor Destruction, the Armor Wizard, Zap Zap. And we have a body armor demo today. Now I'm going to murder his name. I think it's Ziga from the Wood Operator channel, Polenar Tactical.
That Mr. Ahmed Foley is here to see.
Axel Foley.
Axel. Achwell.
Axel.
This is a level 4 offering that they are thinking about selling. Let's take a closer look at this guy. Now I did receive these plates back in October of 2023, and I know Ziga was going to sell these in some capacity. I'm not sure if he's changed and is importing raw materials, or if he's selected a manufacturer in China and then he's checking quality. He asked us in full transparency to demo these with no strings attached. This level 4 plate weighs 5 pounds, 6 ounces. It's 1.022 inches thick, or for those across the pond, 25.8 millimeters and 2.28 kilograms. They are multi-curve. You can see all those nice sexy curves there. We have a rolling curve there, and we also have a curve right here. Now, if this is the first time you're viewing my YouTube channel, I do all my body armor demos completely different than almost everyone else on YouTube. I'm after worst case scenario. I'm here to find a way to blow holes in those plates so that we know what kind of limitations we could expect for those. Since they are level 4, they actually only have to stop 1 round of M2 AP center of mass. So we like to try to see what the limitation of some of these plates are. Since this is rifle armor, we shoot at 45 feet. We also shoot at 0 degrees, again, because that's worst case. If you take anything away from these tests, it's always worst case. We use a giant clay briefcase filled with Roma Plastilina #1 clay. That acts as our compressible media that we put the clay up against. It has been heating all day outside. It's around 70 to 75 degrees. But since I'm out here in the woods, you have to heat that up to around 100 degrees, and you drop a 22 millimeter ball on it to certify the dimple. And we're not going to do that. We're looking at a representation of what back face could be. If we see something like 60 millimeters in my clay, in official NIJ clay, that would be failing. Since this employs a ceramic strike face per the NIJ, we've gone ahead and dropped each plate on its face 2 times as a preconditioning test. Once I've done that, I mark each plate with a DT indicating that the drop test has been performed and how many times I've done it if it's more than 2. And then I perform a torque test. That's when I grab the opposing edges of the plate and apply pressure to listen for any cracking. I know this is a tile array plate and I didn't hear any cracking on either sample, so I marked that with a TQ, meaning that the torque test passed. Since I mentioned this is a tile array plate, you can see that I've drawn a white line on the outer part of this plate, meaning that there is some kind of non-ballistic rated foam or insert that makes up the outer part of this plate. That means the ceramics pretty much stops right there. Our polyethylene behind it extends all the way out to the edge, but not our ceramic. This is kind of a gray area, since in official NIJ testing, they won't shoot any closer than 2 to 3 inches from the edge, and as of 2024, the NIJ does allow that. That does give you a lighter plate at the cost of ballistic protection against M2 AP or any AP threats on this edge. But as I mentioned, the NIJ won't shoot on these edge because usually these shots are very unpredictable. We use a chronograph whenever possible, a Pro Chrono Pal Digital DLX, because we need to know the velocity of that round as it hits that plate. There are ways to either download or upload, or you even use the completely wrong projectile when doing these tests. We try to cover as many bases as possible. We also put a spreadsheet here at the beginning and end that we kind of foreshadow all the threats that we're going to shoot at it. We fill it out and mark our penetrations, and we do a teardown at the end. I also want to remind everyone that I am not an NIJ lab, so if you do see a threat either stopped or penetrated over here, you should always defer to the manufacturer or retailer to produce accredited NIJ lab results showing that those threats are stopped. And on the flip side, if you see me stop M993 or M995 armor piercing or some other obscure armor piercing threat, you should send that off to a lab and have it added as a special rifle threat to your panel. Plate #1 is strapped in and ready to go. Over in Europe, they don't really have access to M2 armor piercing, so this will be a good validation for them. Again, if they're making these, definitely find a lab to have them accredited and fully tested. I'm just the infotainment side of things. We're going to shoot 3 rounds of M2 armor piercing at plate #1. That's our 163 grain, 165 grain full metal jacket, really long hard steel core. The NIJ calls for 2880 feet per second. I had to rework my loads. I did a plate just before this one, and we are close to, if not spot on. This is our 300 Winchester Magnum, 300 Win Chad. And then this one, the upper part of the plate. Easy enough. Number 1, 2, and 3. I do believe these are hexagon tiles, silicon carbide. They can handle some threats sometimes if the plate quality is good. R.A.N.G.E. We had penetrations on number 2 and 3. Holy crap. Now we did stop the first shot. You can hear how crunchy that plate is. I think we'll have to be pretty careful with this guy. Now again, in the NIJ's eyes, this is the only shot that they rate level 4 is that one center one right there. I've penetrated quite a bit of level 4 plates up here in the corner for some reason, the multi-curve design, not sure. Now I'm not making excuses for this because this is life-saving equipment, but I'm just giving you guys as much data as possible. Now we'll check some 5.56 threats. We've got a 22-inch barrel, so maximum real-world velocity. We've got 55 grain full metal jacket M193. That's pretty common everywhere, known for popping steel, but polyethylene and ceramic can stop it. Then we have M855A1, U.S. Army's current issue ball round all the way down to basic. That replaced M855. It is a lot harder to stop for any type of body armor. Nice. Easy enough to see, folks. M193, number 1, 2, and 3. Then our A1, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would consider those fair hits, especially since this is a hexagon tile array plate. Place those bets in the comments below. R.A.N.G.E. We had a penetration from the A1 right here, as well as down there, but that one was stopped. Very, very interesting. Now we might have been, that could be because that's not a fair hit, could be on the foam. We'll double check that in a second, but the rest of this plate is pretty crunchy, and let's move on to number 2. All right, guys, I forgot my box of Specialty 308, so we're gonna go back up to the 300 Win Chad and be a little bit mean to this plate. Now these AP threats have a shorter core than M2 AP, so it has a better chance of stopping it. We've got our M14A1 API, that's Mr. Flashy Flash. Got a lot of incendiary compound in there and hardened steel core. We've got M80A1, that is the U.S. Army's current issue ball round in 7.62 NATO. This one, though, is loaded to our 300 Win Chad velocities of 3,400 feet per second. Woo! That's not looking good, folks.
So much fire, so satisfying.
We'll finish this plate off with 2 rounds of standard M80 ball. This is Winchester Lake City Surplus. Should be going about 2,900 feet per second out of our 24-inch. Should be in the upper right-hand corner. Nice. Easy enough. The API shot number 1, 2, then M80A1 shot number 1, then our standard M80 ball shot number 1 and number 2. Place those bets in the comments below. Maybe. R.A.N.G.E. We stopped the first round of M2 AP, or the API, excuse me. A little bit of a dimple there, not too much, but the API number 2 and M80A1, whoo, blew right through there. Decent dimple on the M80 ball. Not too shabby though. I just think maybe this plate could use a little more work Got to laminate that strike face better. I'm getting clay all over myself. If we had to measure back face on the M80 that stopped, 45 millimeters up there, 34 millimeters up there. Not too shabby after taking 3 hits of really powerful 300 Winchester. Paging Dr. Matt to surgery. Paging Dr. Matt to surgery. Now for a fan favorite, the Teardown. So we're going to see what these plates are made of. And I will always comment that if it takes me a while to get into your plates, that's usually a good sign as far as construction and durability goes. These were rather easy to get into. I think the same problem lies with a lot of other plates, is there is poor adhesion to our polyethylene backer and our ceramic strike face. We're using silicon carbide hexagon tiles right around 404 thousandths thick. They easily separated from our backer. This is plate number 1. Confirmed our penetrations were the M2 APs, that M855A1, as well as this one, although that one down there was actually in the foam. As you can see, there's that foam ring I talk about, and with hexagon tiles, it's actually more than a ring. It's shapes to make up from where the tiles aren't. Now again, that's not a good thing, and that's why you want edge-to-edge protection, because had there been a ceramic tile there, that round likely would have been stopped. Our polyethylene is right around 365 thousandths. It does appear to be pressed fairly well. It didn't like come apart and I can't thumb through this like a book, but it is somewhat pliable. And then as far as our strike face goes, we do have a little bit of foam on the outermost perimeter edge. That's a good thing to protect against strikes. I do detect a little bit of foam on the front, but as you can see, all those tiles, once they get hit, they just start falling apart and they're all over my desk. We need a laminating layer like Kevlar in front of this and behind of it with a lot of adhesive, and then bond that to this, and that makes it work a lot better. Here is the strike face off number 2. Again, you can see it's just falling completely apart. Here is that little foam ring edge right there. We don't want that if possible. That's going to add weight to the plate, of course. And then there are penetrations, the API and M80A1. There you have it. That's it. And I'm getting bit by mosquitoes, so I'm going to clean this mess up and get the heck out of here. Well, Ziga, I broke it, and I broke it good. While these NIJ level 4 plates met the spec of stopping 1 round of M2 armor piercing, they didn't seem to hold up very well to subsequent threats. We have our typical silicon carbide hexagon tile array plate. I feel that the backing material was rather well. I mean, we put some rounds on these plates and we didn't delaminate that backer as we've seen with some of our cheaper plates, but we need a better way to laminate our strike face and keep that together and keep it bonded to our backer as long as possible. I would advise finding a way to get our ceramic as close to the edge as possible. I'm not sure if Polenar Tactical will be offering these for sale, or if they already are, what the price will be, and if they've made any improvements to them. But if they do, and you're abroad and this is the only thing you can come across to purchase, make sure they have some accredited lab results to accompany them. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here. But at the end of all my videos, I take a moment to thank all those who make these possible, because there's a lot that goes into them. Number 1 is my wife and son, who are here helping me to do some cleanup today. Number 2 is Ziga/Polenar Tactical. Again, in full transparency, send us those plates to destroy with no strings attached. Number 3 is my YouTube channel members, Patreon, and Subscribestar fans. I have a little campsite link in the description below. There's various different ways to either support me. I have discount codes from very popular retailers and manufacturers, so if you're looking to give back to the channel, those cost you nothing and they earn me a sales commission, and I put those right back in the channel by buying stuff like M2 armor piercing or guns to sling those down range. And of course, number 4 is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.